Hi, thank you for having me. I
Hey
heard the
Ola,
introduction.
how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. So, my name is Ola, and I'm the podcast host, Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola, swim instructor as of 2019, and personal trainer since 2016. I started Be Fit for Akhira in 2014 because I had like a personal story that I went through in my own life that ignited that idea or the name of it. And I have been on this journey since then,
Tell us,
trying
tell
to
us about that story.
Sure. So in 2014, my grandma, and I'm from Damascus, Syria originally, and so she was sick in overseas. My mom had to go over, and it was a personal connection, like a really good connection. But I couldn't see her because of what has happened in Syria.
Mhm.
The travel was hard, and after that, to me, it was like a wake up call of like, why am I not doing what I'm passionate about, which was, fitness, health, nutrition. I was a biology major. I just wanted to get out of school. I want to be lab research, work in the labs, and I was like, you know what? Let me just switch over to the science, to the health feed, and that's where it all came together. And I went forward.
Why did it affect you? Because you couldn't go back and see her, or because she was sick at a young age? What is it specifically?
Uh, in the hospital, she had a dream, and in the dream, she was screaming out loud like my mom's name and my name, and the doctors told the family like, who are these people, like Ola and Mona, who are they? She kept calling them, and they said like, her daughter and her niece or me, and they say like they need to be here because she does not have much long to live, and she actually passed away in a similar like symptoms of COVID, which is kind of like funny and interesting and sad, um, like a cold, and at the same time I couldn't go. My mom went, and it was my first time ever being alone without my mom at home. I'm the only child, and so that was
Uh,
like a really interesting experience.
so what did
Yeah.
you do? You did you just like make a plan, or what was so like what moved you to take action?
Um, I think I'm more of like an emotional person where I act like following my heart, act on emotions than the logic part, which can be bad sometimes because it can get us in trouble. And that's what got me into it. Like I got that like feeling like in the heart, like, oh, I should go for this. I got inspired by another YouTube like lecture from the religious aspect because I used to be a lot about like faith and religion, Islam and talk, and my parents thought I became too religious for them. And yeah, that's why I'm passionate about it. But at the same time, the journey up to where I am right now, it's still ongoing.
So tell me about some of the content that you've been able to make.
So I have been trying to implement. I've been trying to create content, but I'm not very like social media content is very hard. And I've been trying to kind of like take reflection, like take pictures outside. I've always enjoyed taking pictures of the nature, pictures of my workouts, selfies, sharing them, but they were not very attractive, I guess. And that is where the journey is. So social media has actually really impacted my mental health. Not because I'm only comparing myself, like why am I not getting these followers? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my picture? Like I have a lot to say, but apparently it's not, aesthetic looking. And yeah, that's the journey.
So have you found
Going right
anyone
now.
to help you?
Not very much, but like this week I went back to Fiverr to see if I can hire someone at like a low budget. Because I had someone who reached out to me, and I know it costs a lot of money for marketing and not that much.
What about your podcast? How many episodes do you have up?
Yes, I launched that in January 2019, and I believe I have up to 56, and I have over 5K downloads right now. So that was launched because I also felt unheard in the Muslim community, in the fitness community as well. I felt like not enough, and I wanted to be validated, I guess. But at the same time, I did research, and I found a lot of like Christian faith, fitness, and wellness, but nothing from the Islamic perspective. So
Okay.
it wasn't for me like, I need to get money out of this, but at the same time, like, how can I get what I'm passionate about forward, and hopefully the ROI will come one day.
Yeah, It's about continuing, obviously, to do it and to be sharing valuable information that maybe people can't find in other places. And also, yeah, just like you said, like showing yourself who you are, what you care about, and yeah. So I mean, keep it up.
Thank you.
Or have you been able to partner with anyone? Have you been able to interview anyone you feel like can help you?
So that is a very good question, and I'm laughing because I have tried and it didn't go too well. So one of my podcast guests and one of my inspiration behind this name of Be Fit for Akhira, I actually tried to collaborate with. Um, and it came to a bad ending in 2020, and the ending wasn't very really happy ending. Trauma experience, I guess. That was number one. I've tried, collaboration with few brands, and I was selected from Speedo to join them since I have been talking about swimming all 2020, which is why I also came to Scopio to share my pictures. And in the process, I tried to work with another company, but they have their own way, and it didn't work out too well. And so I launched a Swim for Akhira campaign in 2020, and that was like my first time kind of collaborating with other brands, like giving, giveaways, trying to sort of like partnership, but I haven't really like partnered. It's more like a collaboration.
Yeah, I think the swimming photos are interesting because obviously you look different than other people you would catch in that scene. So for us, it's easier when when a business or someone sees that and then they want to know the story behind that. So I would encourage you to do a little more of that or get more context to the content, or if even you can find a photographer locally that would partner with you, because I think subjects like that are interesting, especially if you can just put the narrative with it and let people understand why they're seeing what they're seeing. And when you submit on Scopio, you can have the story with it. So that helps too. And you can make that as long as you want in the story. But I feel like it's interesting. So for you, so you tie in religion and fitness, like what are those just two of your passions, or is there something specifically together that you feel like is important for them to be like married together?
That's a good question. So religion and fitness is like two passions, but not the only one. So of course, the swimming is a passion, and because it happened to me, and I shared my story on Scopio of why I shared the pictures. And we can talk about it like in the next if you want. But swimming, music for sure, dancing, but there's like a limitation of how much I put myself out there, especially like I wear the headscarf, and the Muslim community, like they will find something in what you're doing to be either wrong or right. And family connections, like I started this whole thing with the hope to kind of like bring us together, but it's been difficult in the sense of like trying to fit in what I like versus of like what is Islamically correct versus of like who I am and what the comments that have come to me. And that's why this has been very, very difficult. And like now, even the therapist told me yesterday, like this is your identity. Like this has become my identity, the Be Fit for Akhira name. And it's not like religion is not the only thing. Science is also a passion of mine. I was interviewed to be part of like someone's book who's writing about faith and science. So faith and science is like another passion of mine. There's like all these different things in one.
Look, there's this identity concept, but there's identities. You have multiple identities, multiple selves. You're one way with your family. You're one way with your friends. You're one way in business. You're one way. Like there's not one specific track that you have to be on. So talking about different subjects, they're not counterintuitive to one another, or are they focusing your identity on one topic? Your identity is changing throughout this, and that's too what I see in photography. Every angle is different. Every person's perspective is different. Where you live matters a lot in the context of it. But who you surround yourself with, of course. But those change like depending on the topic. And I think if you just keep talking about them and you see what people are interested in, but you find like the the thing that people aren't seeing about that subject, or something that you think is really unique about it, like who cares that you swim? You know what I mean? Why should people care? You need to like explain that over and over and over and over and over and over again, so that visibility comes up, so people, so then you build your community around that. So yeah, I would encourage you not to feel like they're like contradicting one another, or that like you have to do one thing. Like these things are going to change throughout your life, and at the same time you have multiple things running. Like your identities are multiple right now. Like I'm not I don't think I'm just one Christina. I have a million different things that define me. So yeah.
Let's mention art therapy. It's like I like to color, I like to draw. And I talk about art on this account
Yeah.
to bring it back to the mental health, and how, like, for me, fitness is not just a workout. Fitness is more like, your emotions, your health, your everything. That's what the whole point of my podcast, trying to like blend it all in one.
Have you tried to do any illustrations? Have you downloaded any apps like Procreate? And because Scopio takes illustrations also. Like that same photo of you swimming, that would be a really cool illustration.
Not yet. I will try one day. Not yet.
Yeah, you should try a bunch of different formats and see which format sticks. It seems like audio you might be most comfortable with, but you can continue to improve and just take classes on YouTube and learn about different ways. I think the same thing with your photography. If you have that story, then you can just start to start to try to do self-portraits more.
We'll try. But a good hijab photographer. So actually, I do have like professional photos of myself that was supposed to be used in my last collaboration. Like when you asked me about partnership, it was supposed to be used for that collaboration that ended. But I will upload them and see if we get approved.
Yeah. I have a question for you about this photographer, the model. I feel like it was like a month ago. There was like this famous hijabi model that decided. What's her name?
Halima.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's really interesting, and I'm happy.
Can you tell people what the story is?
Yeah, sure. So, brief from what I understood the story to be is that she decided to step out of the fashion industry because she thought that like it was compromising her values, and she did not listen to her mom, where her mom was like, "Don't go for it too much." But like the fashion industry went to her to bring that further representation, and she felt like she was compromising her hijab style, instead of like the one piece, for instance, like the turban or the way the pictures were taken. That's how I understood it to be.
So
she just stepped out.
Do you think there is like what's the difference between the fashion, her not wanting to be in fashion, and her being photographed?
Okay. So as I guess from like a Muslim perspective, and what I've seen from the way like our community members have, including myself, when her pictures came out, a lot of people were not happy. So for instance, like since I am talking about swimming, right? And why I shared my pictures, a lot of people were not happy when the Burkini pictures came out. But then there were a lot of people who were happy about it, right? Like, oh, it's presentation and I don't know what. But then there were like two different sides. The one side of like, we don't need to sexualize the style of Burkini and swimming. That's not Islamic and that's not correct. Blah, 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 blah. The other side was like, but that is like representation. We're showing our girls how we can swim and all the positive talk. So they were like two different extremes, right? That is like photography and fashion and swimming, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's another reason of why I pushed myself for like to publish my own picture on Scopio for swimming, because I wanted to show, and I have like really historic emotion that came out in 2020 where I was like tired of seeing Muslim women in Burkini putting lipsticks on, fashionable, looking amazing, but there was not a single picture of swimming. And as a swimmer, I'm like, where am I? I want to be included. I don't feel myself included. Let me be that person. Let me go for it. And I just pushed and pushed. That's the Halima story of like fashion how can so like with fashion and photography, how can we show the true values and representation?
And how do you think like that's going generally? Because like photography, for example, we get submissions from all over the world. Do you think there's something culturally about photography that you feel like uh, maybe your people don't get yet, or they're scared of, or it's somehow like being demonized?
So I remember your story one time when you asked for older people to submit pictures. So I was like, Mom, can I submit a picture of you, please? She was still not okay with it. And I think that plays a role of photography, of like it's them behind it. Like it's them, it's their soul, it's their heart. It's like they're not comfortable yet. And I guess that also goes back to like your clothing, your vulnerability. How comfortable are you? How comfortable are you with like constructive feedback, with social media, putting
Mhm.
comments coming your way, judging you, self-body image. I struggled with bulimia in the past, eating disorder,
Wow.
the whole self, like all of that comes behind a picture. So things that some people are still not comfortable yet.
Yeah, that I mean that is a universal thing. Um,
Yeah.
wherever you are. But for some reason, I feel like for Arabs or maybe even like something, I don't know if it's religious or cultural, but photography is more less available, and people are scared of it a little bit more. And
Hmm.
especially with either putting the content out there. But you were talking about Syria, for example. It's so hard for us to get photos from Syria. I'm like, it's the whole world wants to know what it looks like, but the availability of that content is very difficult. And I think most of the images, even like say you look at Africa, most of the images have been taken by like Westerners in Africa, for example. So there's like this uh, outside in perspective instead of the inside out perspective, when it's really just capturing whatever is happening at that time or wherever you are. So it's really just a reflection. It's not like, sexualizing, as you said, or it could just be like, this is what life is like, or this is what our environment looks like. So I think about that and I wonder, what is it? Like we had a photographer too from Algeria, and he said he created a photography festival, and you should listen to his podcast, and he's like, everyone made fun of me and I was discouraged and I was going to stop, and they were like, why are you going into the square to like, I think in Algeria, why are you going into the square to take photos in public? Like that's not right or whatever. So it's crazy. Like it's hard enough to be creative, and then it's even more hard when you have people around you like saying no, don't do that. So don't
And
listen.
also the trust. So I think the other struggle, I'm not sure if it's a struggle or an issue or problem, but the trust of the picture. So for instance, like my mom has been reading a lot of news where there are pictures like from Syria
Mm-hmm.
showing, for instance, like a girl is being taken out of her family and like she's looking for help and all that stuff. But then you see another article that says that this girl is actually still with her family. Like that story is not true. So like how can we rebuild the trust of what we see? And I think that is something I might be personally going through, of like how can I trust what I'm seeing, the picture, is this actually real or is it actually not
Yeah,
very real what's
we have
happening?
we have some good questions. We have one from Kalegi Javad. Hi, thank you everyone for joining. He's saying, do you photograph bodybuilding athletes? Have you thought of photographing other athletes instead of just photographing yourself? Like maybe you could do that and tell their stories and not just your own.
Me personally, not, but I know other influencers have, like who are part of the Under Armour brand, Nike, Adidas, but I haven't really
Yeah.
body. Yeah.
Um, Whether it's bodybuilders or not, you might be able to even just do iPhone photography and take photos. Even if you just if you take a photograph of them, even like on Zoom, And then you can tell the story. Like if you can find all the swimmers, for example, that you want to be like associated with, you can do profiles on them and get like a photo of them if you can't online or on Zoom. And then you can start to build more of a story around that subject. It's interesting what you're trying to do. I feel like you have a lot of like passion inside of you, and I would just encourage you to just experiment and keep putting things out there and seeing what works. And try to get some people to help you. Like try to get a community, people, other people that are passionate about the same thing, that are working together. Like that's the way that you're going to be able to do it for a long time. Otherwise you will burn out if you don't have like-minded people that are doing something similar. So you can find those people on Instagram or different communities. And they don't have to be like in where you live. They just have to be like passionate about that subject. I think that's where you, if you feel like you're burning out, that's where you can find some energy.
Yeah, and I want to ask about Scopio. So for instance, like the pictures that have been approved, I actually went back to Scopio and I shared that with them because they said, submit to us any pictures that we can use in our like holiday catalog. And I'm like, sure. So I sent them like the original picture, but then I kind of sent the Scopio's link. They did not reply back to me yet, but I was hoping that they can take it into a real consideration of like, I'm putting myself out there.
Yeah.
Here's a brand, here's something that accepted it from me as a stock image type thing. But it's just like, yeah, I want to understand like what is the best images for Scopio, yeah, how to promote, how to be taken a little bit seriously by like other brands, such as Speedo, for instance, and others.
Yeah, so you could definitely use your vendor page on Scopio. I took a look at it. I would, if I were you, I would submit way more because they're not able, it might be hard for them to see the range of style. I would also include, like how I asked you how many podcast episodes you have. People want to know, like these brands, they want to know social clout. So I would, if I were you, I would list, this is my Instagram, this is my podcast. If you can, take all of your podcasts, put them on YouTube. Like just record them as a video, put them on a YouTube channel. They are. Okay. So put that and then put the number, your statistic, even if it's small, just put your statistic number there, how many followers you have or whatever. And then you put your vendor page at Scopio and you say, Scopio is one of the largest diverse photographer community. Here are my photos on Scopio, like over 20,000 businesses. Like, do you have your view number? How many people have viewed your pictures? How much?
4, I think.
Okay, well maybe because they're not visible. So maybe we can
when I type in like swimming. Yeah, when I typed in swimming in the search bar, I came up and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I see a hijab. That's so, like, finally.
That's the point of Scopio. That's what we want to happen. So, yeah, so I'll talk to my photo editor, see if we can move your photos up so that people can view them more. But you can also share that link and get more people to look at them, like put it on your Facebook or whatever.
Okay, and I have one question. I emailed, but I didn't hear back about videos. Do you think Scopio will have a video submission in the future?
Do you have any videos now?
Yes, and I have my own personal story about why I'm asking this question, but I do have swimming videos that I recorded myself with an action camera, and I took those videos to Fiverr to outsource to kind of a little bit more professional the whole campaign. And I thought, oh, why not submit those videos for a company that can give me the copyright?
Yeah. So why don't you I'll put the email info at Scopio with the videos. We'll put it in this video first. Let's edit the videos you have as part of this interview, and then I think you can share this interview. And this will be up on our YouTube and our podcast and stuff, so you can use that. And then if anybody gets interested, like Speedo could ask us, can you help us find X amount of photographers? Like we have that all the time. We have 4 or 5 projects running this week where we're finding people in different subjects. So first, let's do a promotional video for you. Give us those videos and we'll add them to this one. And then we just have to form the story a little stronger for you, I think. For you, I think it's like bits and pieces. But once, if you send us that, we'll try to put a storyline next to it. And then if you have a photographer friend, or you can kind of message people, you live in Virginia.
Yeah, one of them just came on.
If you do, tell him to meet you at, or her to go to the pool with you and do more of a photo shoot, like more of a professional photo shoot, and then have those photos up, and like have those at either the do self portraits, have him teach you how to do self portraits, and then try a range of those portraits. But maybe you can just have a little bit of help, and then that way you're gonna have a range of work. You need like 100 maybe 100 photos that you can show when you approach these different brands. I think that's going to be the best option for you.
Yeah, we'll try. It's just that with the COVID situation, the access to the pool has
Yeah.
been very difficult.
Well,
So
maybe
this summer,
they can just teach you how to do the self-portrait then. And then you can figure out different styles. Like, just be creative with it. It doesn't need to be in the pool.
yeah, I will try because that's the problem I have been facing within the pools itself. Like at George Mason, for instance, you're not supposed to take
Yeah.
pictures of in the water. Then when the summertime came, I took advantage of the community pool.
Mhm.
The lifeguards were like very friendly. So I was like, hey, please take this picture. Like, this is important for me. I'm part
Yeah.
of Speedo, blah, blah, blah. So they helped me out, and then I had to do it myself with my own action camera
Yeah.
as well.
Try to be creative, like not in the pool. Look up different ideas and just make sure you just get your range and your style. And if there's anybody that's doing something similar, just try to like copy them and adjust it too. Because the whole point is that you just want to show your identity and your uniqueness. It doesn't need to be literal. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like exactly what you just want to show. Like, this is how I work. But I like in your Instagram, in your stories, that you explain, you take the time to write things out, which is good. So make sure that that writing is available on the other channels like YouTube and podcast too. But you can use the Scopio page. We have artists that use it to get jobs. They'll get jobs through there. Once you get your view count up, you can also use your view count. Yeah, and we'll keep you in mind if we have any good opportunities too. I'll try to see if we have other artists that are doing something similar to you. For us, it's also a hard subject because I don't like what we were talking about. There's a lot of stigma associated with it, and it's hard, especially for the younger community, because people only have images from like 50 years ago, and it's like what's happening today, people, you know? So yeah, and then when you have a big model like that pulls out and says, no, I don't think that this is good, then everyone's like, oh, everyone thinks it's bad, you know? So if there's not enough voices, the voices that are there, they take the whole lion's share of the conversation. So it's good to even have your voice in your topic. Well,
But I do have to say that it is just like I am actually right now, like as we were talking, like wait, I'm not sure if I'm too comfortable putting myself out there like as much anymore. Like I have been trying to pull back from the online world. Like I've been going through my own phase. Oh, maybe I'm going too far. I'm not too comfortable with this anymore. I think I'm crossing my boundaries, values, all of it. And so that's why Halima, a lot of people were like looking up to her. Like she actually took a stand for her values. I think like her career did not potentially end. I think it kind of like restarted, where like a lot of like different brands are going to go to her, the brands that are aligned with her values. So I had this conversation with someone else where we were talking. She's a Muslim owner as well, and we were trying to cater for the Muslim community. And she said it's interesting how we have been trying to go to like these big brands, like giving them our hands, like we want to be heard, but now they're realizing like, wait, we can do it ourselves. And that's the person I have been trying to say is like, we don't need a big brand to speak up for ourselves. Like we can do it ourselves. And that has been like what I'm trying to do, but it's also a struggle where I'm part of Speedo, for instance, like at a micro level. I got my Nike brand. I did mention my opinions about Nike. So that's where I am working on my opinions, emotions, and the logic part as well.
Yeah, and again, like if you're not comfortable, if audio is a good format for you, you can continue on in audio. You just have to become more descriptive in your communication and improve your vocabulary and the way that you describe events, and you can go to audio. And there's tons of brands, like there's this, like all the like underwater headphone kind of companies, like the tech, you can look at the tech companies, not the clothing fashion companies, things that you feel like, oh, this is a cool new innovative technology, or subjects like that that inspire you. And so just, you know, if you don't feel comfortable in a format, just go to another format like audio, and then you can just, again, you can pick your companies that you think this is cool, this is interesting, this is, you know, because, you know, it's not just about fashion, it's about a million, health, nutrition, technology. There's like a million different paths that you can take.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for the encouragement.
Of course. Well, thanks for coming on, and I hope to meet you soon, and please stay safe.
You as well.
And
Take care.
and I'll just, most important, find your happiness and be at peace, and then the creativity. They say creativity is the best when it's most personal. So, you know, just keep your eye on that.
Yes, thank you.
Ola. Bye.